In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to finish building your Automata box. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is grab one of these axle end caps. I'm going to left click, drag it over. And then once it appears, I'm going to kind of move it off the top of that box a little bit. So I'm just going to slide it out here so I can play with it a little bit easier. There we go. We'll hit OK. Next, I want to do is I want to go up to assemble and I want to go to joint. And I want to make sure that I have what they call a revolute joint. So I see that I have revolute. I'm going to hit position. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select this little edge of my end cap. Then I'll go back down and I'll zoom into my hole on my right side and put that in there. I'm going to select OK. Next, I want to grab my axle. So I'm going to grab it, drag it over. I'm going to rotate it down about 90 degrees, and then I'm going to move it off the box just a little bit. There we go. We'll hit OK. I'm going to go back up to assemble, back to my joint, and I want to go back to rigid joint. So let's go down here to rigid. I'll go back to position. Next, I want to make sure that I grab the middle of this end face right here. So I'm going to grab that part first, and then I'm going to come down here, and I want to put that right on this axle piece. Now, here's a little trick. If I move my cursor on this face and then hit the control key, it's going to allow me to easily grab that center point right there. I'm going to grab that center point. Well, you can see that this goes in and not the correct way. So I'm going to hit flip right here. And now I need to bring that out. And I need to bring that out 0.25. So I'm going to just drag it out and I'm going to type in 0.25 there. And we'll hit OK. Next, I want to bring my handle in, and you'll see why I brought it out to 5. So I'm going to drag my handle in, and there's my handle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this around a little bit into about the position that I want there. Okay. I know I'm going to have to spin around, but that looks pretty good. That's how I want my handle. Next, I'm going to keep my rigid joint. I'm going to come back here. So I'll go to assemble, joint. I'm going to put my cursor on this face. I'm going to hold my control key down, and I'm going to grab that center of that hole right there. I'm going to do the same thing over on this axle. I'm going to grab the center piece right there. And that's going on, but I want to flip it around. So I'm going to hit flip, and there's my handle sitting on there. So we're going to hit OK. All right, so there is my handle. Now what you can do is actually, if I zoom in a little bit, I can actually grab that handle. And because I have that revolute joint, I can start spinning that. You look on the inside of the box, you're going to see that my axle is actually spinning, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of spin it back up here, get it close to 0. Next, I want to put in the other end cap on the other side. So I'm going to spin this around a little bit so I can see the other side. Oh, a little too much. We're going to go grab our end cap. We're going to bring our end cap in. And there it is. We're going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move it around so I can see it a little bit better. That'll probably work for us right there. Now I need to put my end cap in here, and I want to attach it to my axle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin around so I can see the other part of my end cap. There it is. I'm going to go up to assemble, hit joint. I'm going to move my cursor on here, and I'm going to hit the control key so I can come down and grab that center point. And we'll zoom out a little bit, and I'll look at my axle over here. And I'm going to grab, you can see it a little bit. I'll rotate around a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to grab the end point in the middle right there. And this is not going the right direction, so I'm going to hit flip. And now I need to offset this in. All right, so I need to offset in. So I'm going to rotate this sideways so I can see it. I'm going to offset this in until it almost hits the wall, but I know the exact number that I need. So I'm going to offset that in 0.24. Now yours could be negative, it could be positive, but you can see mine's going in the negative direction. So I'm going to say negative 0.24 or 25, I should say, and offset that in a little bit. I'll hit OK. All right, now I'm going to look. There's my handle. My handle's sticking upward. So let's go back. We're going to actually add the little dial in. So I'm going to scroll down and find my little pointer. There it is, my needle. I'm going to drag that in, and there it is. And we're going to rotate this around a little bit. I'm actually going to spin it, and you'll see why in a second. In the position I'm going to put it in, rotate it down, and I want to rotate it in the upward position so it's sticking up. And now I'm just going to slide it over because I want that to stick straight up like that. So now let's look at the other side of the box. I'm going to hit OK for that. I'm now going to put my needle on the end here. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to use a rigid constraint. So go assemble, joint, put my cursor on here, hold the control key down, grab the center point there. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to zoom in and grab the center point of my axle right there. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to hit flip and flip it around. And that's looking good. So I'm going to hit OK. And there's my little needle pointing straight up. Now what I'm going to do is I don't like to see all these joints popping in and over. So I'm going to come down here to this little TV on the bottom called Display Settings, Object Visibility, and I'm going to turn off all my work features for now. I can turn them back on later. I can turn specific ones on later, but I'm going to turn them off because they become a little bit too cluttered. All right, so now we have our handle on here, and actually I'm going to rotate this about 90 degrees. Now if I spin this around, you're going to see that my needle now spins. So my needle spins with my handle. So let's spin back. Got a couple more parts in. We're going to put a little follower guide up here in the top. So I'm going to grab this small one. I'll drag it in. We're going to rotate this around a little bit in the direction it's supposed to go. And I'm going to pull it out just so it's not in any way there. There we go. Next, I'm still going to use my rigid joint on this one because I don't want this one spinning at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate around so I can see the bottom of that. And I'm going to grab this ring right here. So it's going to grab that ring and that center point. I'm going to zoom out, go back to my home view. And now I need to get the center point right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cursor on top of the box, hit my control key, and then move right to the center. And that's looking really nice right there. Next, I need to put in my follower, the piece that's going to go up and down. Okay, so let's go and grab my follower. There's my follower. Bring that in, and I like that position, so I'm going to leave that right where it is. Next, I want to put this inside here, but we're going to use a different kind. I want this to be able to go up and down. So this joint is going to be a little bit different. And in this one, we're going to go to motion, and I'm going to use a slider on this one. I want this to be able to slide up and down. So the first thing is I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to grab the top center here, make it easy for myself. Come down here, I want to grab the top center of this. So again, I'm going to put my cursor on the top, the flat part right here. I'm going to hit Control, and it allows me to move the center. And I can zoom out a little bit. And there's my piece. I'm just going to hit OK. It doesn't matter where it sticks because I'm going to be able to take this and slide it up and down. Next, I need to look on the inside here. And I need to slide this down a little bit so I can see it. Now, there's a little end cap that goes on here. It's called the roller. So I'm going to grab that roller, slide it in, go to home view so we can see it. There's my roller. So I'm going to slide it over here a little bit. And then I'm going to rotate it down. And then I want to rotate it in this direction. I want it to be orientated like this. Okay. I'm going to orientate it just like you see it right here. So I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to go back to assemble, and I'm going to go back to my joint. And this time I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick rigid again. Now for this one, I need to be able to look on the inside of this part. And I want to pick the center inside edge of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. We're going to rotate around a little bit. And there's my axle. And I'm going to pick the bottom center of that axle. And this is the orientation that I want this going. So that's looking really good. So we're pretty much almost set. I have one more thing. I got to put the cam on that we had made in activity 4.1.2. So now I'm going to bring in my little pair cam here. So I'm going to grab my little pair cam. I'm going to bring it in, slide it in. I'm going to rotate this around. So I want it sticking up. And I'm going to rotate it in this direction. So I want my cam to kind of be sitting like that. Pull it out so you can see what I'm doing. There's my little cam. So I like that. I'm going to hit OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and I'm going to assemble. I'm going to still use my rigid joint. Make sure I'm in rigid. Yep. Okay, I'm going to use my rigid joint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that center part of that square again. So I'm going to put my cursor right on this flat surface, hit Control, grab that center part. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on this axle. I'm going to grab that center part. Well, I'm going to flip it, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the front angle right here. Okay, I'm going to look at my front angle. We'll slide this out of the way. And now I want to slide this cam in line with my follower. Okay. And I bet you that is going to be a nice even number. So minus 2.75 looks pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. Now we're almost done. I'm going to go back to my isometric view, and then I'm going to turn it just a little bit so we can see inside the box. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my follower, I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. Now I want my follower to stay right on this face right here. So I'm going to go back up to assemble. And I want to put what they call a tangent relationship, where the two are just touching. So I'm going to pick tangent relationship. I'm going to pick the bottom edge of that guide and this face of my cam, and I hit OK. So now if my handle turns, my follower should follow right along, which it does. Now, to drive that around all by itself, over here are my joints. Over here are my joints. You'll see the one revolute that we put in there. Okay? I can right click on that revolute, and then I can go animate joint relationships. And you will see as it's spinning around, there's my cam going up and down. So that is it. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along through this video.